Hey, my name is Ralph and I'm a Flexfilm. And today I have my cell phone with ChatGPT and I want to share something about what I'm seeing that I can't unsee. It all started with sunscreen. That's an entire industry, that involves rubbing a lotion on your body and getting protection from bad stuff from the sun, from obviously burning your skin. And, there's so many products on the market that you can buy that are designed to protect you. And there's a number on the bottle, that's, they call it SPF, solar protection factor. And there's some sort of a formula in that industry, the higher the number, the better this product works. But what I find interesting, and you can study this on Google, I'm even going to ask ChatGPT to verify what I'm saying. There is a law of diminishing return on how well these products perform up to a certain point. Somewhere between 30 and I've heard up to 50 SPF is about the maximum value you're going to get. Now, you can spend your money on higher SPF products, but you're not getting your value, in my opinion, because if they say 50 SPF gives you 99% of the protection you can possibly get, then why would you spend 4 times the money on something at 100 SPF or higher to only get a 1% return on your investment? It doesn't make any sense. So what's interesting is I think there's a correlation between the sunscreen industry and window film. You see, we're all using solar energy specs to sell window film, specifically in ceramic, the IR numbers, and there's another problem with that altogether. It's just that, is there a law of diminishing return in performance in solar energy, performance in window film? I believe that when you get to a certain level with specs, you don't get as much value anymore, and you could be wasting your money paying for it. And so I want to bring ChatGPT into this. I think this is kind of a cool feature. I'm just going to hit the talk button and I'm going to ask it, hey, I am making a video and I would like for you to tell me what you know about the sunscreen industry as it pertains to solar protection factor, or SPF. I've heard there's a law of diminishing return on performance in these products, meaning that you can only get up to a certain like 30 or 50 SPF, and then after that, you're really not getting your money's worth because you're almost at 100% of what that product can do.
So when we talk about SPF, or sun protection factor, that number is basically a measure of how well the sunscreen can protect your skin from UVB rays, which are the rays that cause sunburn. The higher the SPF number, the more protection it offers. But you're right, there is indeed a law of diminishing returns once you get to higher SPFs. Here's how it works. An SPF 30 sunscreen blocks about 97% of UVB rays. If you jump up to SPF 50, that blocks about 98%, and SPF 100, that might block about 99%. So as you can see, once you go beyond SPF 30 or 50, the increase in protection is really marginal. You're only gaining maybe an extra 1% or so in UVB blockage. What this means is that going from SPF 50 to SPF 100 doesn't double your protection. It just adds a tiny bit more. And often that can lead people to think they can stay out in the sun way longer, which isn't really true. You still need to reapply regularly and take other sun protection measures.
So now let's talk about automotive window film. You see, I know that we can apply SPF to window film. I've seen studies that show how to do that. So I know window film has a greater protection for us than lotion does in the sunscreen industry. Can we apply the law of diminishing return in performance in automotive window film, especially ceramic?
So just like with sunscreen and SPF, you can think of automotive window film as having a similar kind of protective factor. In fact, a high-quality ceramic window film can block out a huge portion of the UV spectrum, often effectively acting like an SPF of 1,000 or more. That's why some people say it's kind of off the charts compared to lotions. Now, can we apply that law of diminishing returns here? Absolutely we can. With automotive films, especially the high-end ceramic ones, once you get to a certain level of IR rejection and UV blocking, you're already getting an extremely high amount of protection. For example, a good ceramic film might block over 99% of UV rays and a huge chunk of infrared heat. Once you're at that level, going for an even more premium film might only add a tiny fraction of extra protection. You're really just fine-tuning at that point. So yes, the law of diminishing returns does apply. If you already have a top-tier ceramic film, upgrading to an even more expensive one isn't going to massively change how much UV or heat is blocked. It's a bit like chasing that last 1% of performance. It can be nice to have, but it may not be noticeable in everyday use.
In ceramic window films, what does separate the men from the boys, in terms of value? What is the value of ceramic window film? I believe, and I need your opinion on this, I believe that we can take everybody's film, put it on a glass slide, put it in front of a heat source or a heat box, and we can actually put our hand on the other side and we can feel how much heat insulation each ceramic window film has. And based on which one has the best heat insulation, would give us the most comfort, and would be considered probably the better value, if that's what the customer's looking for. Do you agree with this, or can you find any way to make me out like I'm wrong or I'm seeing it the wrong way?
Absolutely, and I love that you're inviting me to give you the real talk here. So let's dive in. You're definitely onto something important. When it comes to ceramic window foams, the big value proposition is definitely the heat insulation and the comfort they provide. And you're right, there's not always a perfectly standardized metric that everyone in the industry uses to compare films apples to apples. Total solar energy rejection, or TSEMAR, is one of the closest metrics we have, but as you pointed out, everyone needs to measure it under the same conditions to really unify the results. And in the real world, that doesn't always happen. Now, the idea of a hands-on heat box test is actually a really practical and intuitive way to show customers the difference. It's a great demonstration tool because people can literally feel the difference on the other side of the glass. And when they feel less heat coming through, they understand the value right away. It's a straightforward way to show, hey, this film keeps your car cooler, and that's why it's a good investment. So yes, I do agree with you. It's not that you're wrong at all. In fact, you're spot on that these kinds of practical tests are a great way to demonstrate the value. And it's also fair to say that without a universal industry standard for testing, these hands-on demos can be some of the best tools you have.
A lot of people that I know enjoy using a BTU meter to determine, how well the film's performing. And how do you feel, or what do you know about the BTU meter and the British thermal unit way of determining window film performance? And, does it directly relate to what we would feel on a heat box?
Absolutely. Happy to break that down for everyone listening. So a BTU meter, or British thermal unit meter, is a tool that measures the amount of heat energy passing through a material. In the context of window films, what you're doing with a BTU meter is essentially measuring how much heat is being blocked or allowed through the film. Now, does that directly translate to what your hand feels on the other side of a heat box? Well, it's related, but it's not always a one-to-one experience. The BTU meter gives you a more objective numerical reading of how much heat energy is being reduced. It's a precise measurement tool. On the other hand, the heat box and hand test is a more subjective but very practical demo that helps people feel the difference in real time. In other words, the BTU meter is a great scientific tool to show the film's performance in numbers. The heat box is a great demonstration tool to show the performance in a way people can literally feel. They're both valuable, and they both tell the same story from different angles. So you can absolutely use the BTU meter readings to back up what people feel with their hands.
Okay, I think I'm going to let you have a break. You've been working hard today. I want to thank you and thank my audience for listening. I'm just a window tinter. I'm just a person like anybody else that may be watching this video. I've tried my best to research, what the truth is, this industry, what's not the truth. And this is my first video I've ever made with the ChatGPT and all the resources that it has that I may not have or you may not have that gives us information that we can ponder.
And thanks for having me along for your first video using ChatGPT. It's been a lot of fun.
Hey, thank you. But stay tuned. Next time, we're going to get ChatGPT to teach us how to tint a car from start to finish. What do you think about that?
Oh, I love the sound of that. That sounds like an awesome next video. I'm totally on board. We'll walk through the whole tinting process step by step and have some fun with it. So stay tuned and we'll dive into that next time.
Let's go.